Hello again, I'm Michael Mountain, and we're talking with Uri Lifshin, who is a graduate student at the University of Arizona and has been leading some fascinating studies into how our very human anxiety about our own mortality, our fear of death, is one of the drivers of cruelty to animals on many levels, not just people kind of kicking the cat or whatever, but institutionalized cruelty like vivisection and factory farming, cruel sports and all of that kind of thing. And we've kind of hypothesized for many years now, I suppose, that this is indeed the case.
Yes, so there's been a lot of studies showing that if you remind people of their mortality, if you remind them of death, then they're more likely to deny the fact that they are animals. They're more likely to say that humans are different rather than similar to other animals. They are more likely to have negative attitudes towards animals. So in the particular studies that we did, we reminded people of death subliminally, and then we gave them the opportunity to either support the killing of animals in a variety of different domains.
When you say you reminded people subliminally, what do you do?
Yes.
I know you take two different groups of people, and one of them you call the control group, and they don't get the reminder, they get a reminder of something else, and the other group gets a specific subliminal reminder about their own mortality. Like what kind of reminder?
Subliminal means that it's a flash of the word death that is flashing at a very, very high speed, so that you process it unconsciously, but consciously you're not aware that you were exposed to that word.
So like a word just like what, death or
any other word, basically.
I see.
But the difference is that the word death creates this potential for anxiety and then motivates us to behave in ways. And so what we did is we randomly assigned people, undergraduate students at the University of Arizona, we randomly assigned them to see this subliminal prime of the word dead, or a control word that was either pain or fail or something that is also a negative word, but it's not about death.
Right.
And that was our control condition.
And then you ask them like a bunch of questions to each group. And
yes, so we asked them a variety of questions about attitudes on various topics, but the critical questions are about their support for killing animals. So, for example, support for using euthanasia to control for overpopulations of cats and dogs, killing seals to make sure there's enough fish in the sea, generally supporting the killing of animals. So questions like killing animals is always wrong, or just a general thing, and also specific things like about using animals in experiments, in cosmetic experiments, not in medical experiments, but cosmetic experiments and that sort of stuff. And
I get it. Yeah.
And initially, we thought that perhaps we would find a couple of different factors showing different aspects of support for killing animals, but eventually it seemed that all of these factors actually grouped together to comprise this one scale of support for killing animals, which I think it's interesting by itself, the fact that all the different domains of killing animals actually correlate. So it's interesting to think that if you're a person that supports the use of killing of animals in experiments, you're also more likely to support euthanasia of cats and dogs and so forth. And I don't think there's been any other study previously using a one scale for general support for killing animals. But we consistently found that this scale is reliable in terms of the relationship between the items.
Okay. So bottom line then, what you're showing there is that people who get some kind of reminder, however subliminal, however subconscious, of their own personal mortality, that this pushes them in the direction of supporting cruelty to animals in many different forms. Did you find any difference between, say, men and women? Or...
Yes. So we also looked at different variables that we know that are related to support for killing animals, such as your gender. Women generally support the killing of animals less than men. And we also looked at participants' pre-existing attitudes towards animal rights, because a lot of people care about animal rights and will fight for it. And certainly we thought that maybe we'll only find this effect with people who are not particularly concerned with animal rights. And at the beginning, we even thought that people who care about animals' rights would even support the killing of animals less when they think about death, because it's an important part of their worldview. So we looked at all these variables, and of course, people who support the animal rights generally supported the killing of animals much less, and women supported the killing of animals less than men. But what we found is that none of these variables moderated the effect. So the effect that the reminder of death had on support for killing animals affected everyone.
Wow. So if I look at myself in the mirror and say to myself, wow, I'm really a supporter of animal rights and so on, and you give me just that little subliminal death prompt again, I'm quite likely to be more in favor of killing animals than I thought I was.
Yes, relatively to yourself.
That's scary.
Yes. So, for example, let's say you had a fly on your forehead right now.
I'm more likely to go...
Yes.
Wow. And less likely if I haven't had the little death prompt there before.
Yes. And even less likely than that if I was to find another way to give you psychological security.
Okay.
Yes. So in one of the studies, which I think is actually one of the most interesting experiments that we did, we, after having half of our participants see the subliminal death prime and half of them see the control prime, we also gave half of those people fake positive feedback about their performance in the task that was meant to improve their self-esteem, to boost their self-esteem. And so it was something like, they finished that work completion, that work task in which we used the prime, and then the feedback was randomly assigned. We told them, oh, wow, you performed exceptionally well. This is amazing. And we gave them the idea that they are exceptionally well in this task that measures cognitive abilities.
Or whatever, just something to basically get them to think of themselves as being really pretty nice people. Like you might tell me, you're really doing a very good interview here, or whatever.
Yes.
Or something like that, yes. Okay.
Yes. And the control condition were told that, okay, they did good, just as well as everyone else. Okay, they didn't get any negative feedback, they got a very neutral positive feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, we had participants fill out their supports for killing animals with our scale. And what we found is that if we boost people's self-esteem, that takes away the effect of death words. So people who had the positive feedback did not support the killing of animals, even if they were reminded of their mortality.
Wow. So if you're telling me again that I'm doing a really good interview here and then the fly lands on my head, I'm more likely to gently get a little container and take him out of the room than I am to swat.
Absolutely, yes, because you are already gained that feeling of security by other means.
This is really quite remarkable stuff. Like I say, it's a little bit scary because this all goes on, way below the surface of our consciousness, and all sorts of things, whatever we may think about ourselves or what our whole relationship toward our fellow animals is or whatever, there's just a whole lot of other stuff going on here.
Yeah, so we have shown, so in the series of studies, we've shown that in the first study, we simply show the effect that it happens. Then we did 2 more studies to show that this effect is really specific to killing animals, not, for example, for killing humans.
Oh, okay.
So we did 2 experiments showing exactly that we reminded people of death, and then we had them either fill out the measure of support for killing animals or fill out a parallel measure of support for killing humans, and there was no effect for killing humans, just for killing animals.
Wow. Now, that I find quite surprising because you'd think it would be across the board. Why? What do you think? What does that suggest about why we don't treat other humans that way?
Yeah, we certainly do kill some humans,
yes.
right? But it's all about whether or not the target is threatening your ability to feel immortal and superior.
I see.
If it was humans who were criminals or enemies or anything like that, then we might find the effect. And certainly previous studies in the framework of terror management theory has found that if you remind people of death and then show them an enemy or even somebody from the other side of the political spectrum, that they might be more aggressive.
Now, you said that was one study, or was there another one as well that showed something else that...
So we had a series of 5 experiments, and across all those studies, we showed that it doesn't matter your political attitudes, your attitudes towards animal rights, your gender, your religiosity, all these things don't matter. This effect happens across the board, and then so in the first study, we show that effect. In the second and third studies, we replicated it and showed that it doesn't apply to killing humans from our in-group. In the fourth study, we showed that a self-esteem boost moderates the effect, as I just told you. And in the fifth study, we also played around with the level of justification of the killing. So the context was the killing of male chicks in the egg industry. We talked about the annual killing of 200 million male chicks in the egg industry in America.
Just to explain that, when eggs hatch at a factory farm, if the chicks are female, then they're going to be good egg layers. Male chicks aren't so good at laying eggs, and so routinely they're just shoved down a shredding machine, in fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So what we did is first of all we primed people with the subliminal death prime or control prime. We told them what's going on, that there's this killing of 200 million male chicks annually. And in one condition, we told them, so if we don't do that, then the industry might suffer or even collapse. But on the other condition, we just told them that basically this helps keep the egg prices cheap, very cheap. And if we would stop doing this killing of male chicks, then we would have to eventually pay around 10% more on eggs.
Right.
We thought that people would be more willing to support the killing of male chicks when it is justified, because that sort of would give them an excuse and they wouldn't think that they are themselves immoral or something like that. And we thought that when there's no really an excuse, when it's just for saving 10%, that nobody would support the killing of male chicks. But in fact, we found that it didn't matter. Again, everybody who thought about death supported the killing of male chicks more. And the effect was even stronger for the non-justification condition. We were amazed.
So that's like they're not even prepared to spend an extra 30 cents on a dozen eggs in the store if it will actually save these billions of chickens. And I'm sure, of course, that if you actually then tell people what you've really been studying, then they would say, well, I don't feel that way at all. I don't really believe that. I don't feel I'm a cruel person. None of us likes to think of ourselves that way.
Right. Of course, yeah. Everybody wants to think positively about themselves, and we all need to have self-esteem. And if we don't, then we get caught up in different psychological problems. We start feeling anxiety and depression. So most people feel good about themselves and think they are better than average on at least on the important traits, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so but in that context, I didn't see, people were listening, and in the different debriefs, and I don't think people were arguing too much. I think because this reality is so clear,
Yes.
because we're doing stuff to animals that's just unexplainable,
Hmm.
right? We're quote unquote civilized people, and but we still abuse animals in the most horrific ways imaginable.
So this is fascinating. It's demonstrated one thing that's really been missing in the 30 years of research that's been going into what we call terror management theory. Any next plans at this point?
Oh, well, yeah. We're also looking at how much we think of ourselves as animals might affect how this really relates to how we are aggressive towards people from other cultures.
Right.
Because if you also look at history and you look around the world, when we're talking about mass killings of humans, when we're talking about genocide, then studies and historics and you can see that this genocide is often being justified through the dehumanization of the victim. The victim is portrayed as an animal, and therefore it's okay to kill them.
Yeah, they're just rats, and they're just, and this has
Exactly,
been going on.
cockroaches.
Yeah, yeah,
And so really, I think that one of the main goals of social psychology is to understand how people are able to really do these terrible things, and how the Nazis were able to do the Holocaust to the Jews. And really, if we really want to get to the root, to the bottom of this issue, we really have to focus on our attitudes towards animals in the first place. And if we stop or reduce the unjustified killing of animals, then that should also help reduce the support for killing of dehumanized people or
right.
people from other cultures, which we see as more animalistic.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating. It's a really valuable study. We all appreciate it, and I know you're going to be talking about it a bit at our upcoming symposium in just a few weeks from now. So
Yes.
thanks for all the work that you've done, and we'll look forward to going into it some more. Uri Lifshin, much appreciated.
Thank you, Michael. This is an honor, a great honor for me. Yes, I do think that this is one of the most important things that we have to do.